Thanks for downloading this podcast from Radio Kerry. For more, go to radiokerry.ie/podcasts or search iTunes using the keyword Radio Kerry.
Yesterday you would have heard several parents of long-stay residents at St Mary's of the Angels facility in Beaufort, which is run by St John of God and funded by the HSE, calling for an immediate cessation of a plan to move their loved ones from the campus and calling for a meeting with the HSE and St John of God services. It's all emerged over the last couple of days, really, when a plan and a report came into the open about plans effectively to move all of the long-term residents out of St John of God Centre in St Mary's of the Angels into houses right across the county of Kerry. The parents are very unhappy and very against it. We here in Radio Kerry had posed several questions, numerous questions indeed, to both the HSE and St John of God services in response to what the parents had been saying and in response to what the report into why this is being done revealed. Still no response from St John of God services, but the HSE have come in with a second statement released yesterday evening. And this is what they say with regards to it. The HSE wishes to assure all residents of St John of God services in Beaufort and their families that they will be consulted with and fully involved in any proposed changes to the residential services provided on the campus in Beaufort. No changes will proceed until this consultation process has been completed with all relevant parties. This consultation and engagement process is underway, having commenced earlier this month. And they go on to say the proposed changes for services at St John of God's are in line with similar positive changes in residential services for people with an intellectual disability across the country and supporting the move to community living. It's part of the implementation of Transforming Lives programme. The vision is to support people with disabilities to transition to community living with the appropriate supports to live lives of their choosing and decide where they live, who they live with and how they spend their time. And the HSE is working with a number of partner disability organisations, including St John of God Services in Kerry, to implement this new model of residential support where people with disabilities are supported to live ordinary lives in ordinary places with no more than 4 people with a disability living together in houses that are dispersed throughout the local community. And they're saying this is in line with national policy to decongregate congregated settings. Congregated settings are defined as one where 10 or more people reside in a single living unit or are campus based, which is really the situation with regards to St Mary's of the Angels in Beaufort. Now, that statement in itself doesn't really answer a number of the questions that we had asked the HSE and both St John of God's as to how this was handled, the way it was handled, or really the lack of organisation in and lack of notification of parents of these residents as to what was happening and why it was happening, and consulting with them properly before the process started, which it has. The HSE this morning, or yesterday evening, have announced now that the process at least is stopping for the time being until a consultation process takes place. With me to talk about this is Fianna Fáil councillor John Joe Culloty, who's on the HSE South Forum, councillor Damien Quigg of Sinn Féin, and also councillor Norma Moriarty, also of Fianna Fáil. If I can start with you on this one, Norma, a lot of the parents, and you've been talking to some of them, particularly distressed, and we heard from them yesterday morning, very upset at the way this whole thing was approached and started by the HSE and by St John of God's.
Absolutely, and rightly so. However, the haphazard, if you like, and the cloak and dagger manner in which they began this process is one thing. The fact that the process is in train is the more important issue. Okay, that's the substantive issue. And even the statement you just read out there had many nice phrases in it, had many nice sentiments in it, that they were going to consult with the residents and the families, they were going to take their needs on board, they were going to listen to them, but they were still going to create a situation where they were going to go from the congregated setting of 10 or more to the decongregated setting. So they've their bottom line already made out. They want to basically say, we're going to sugarcoat this to get from point A to our point B. And they have not indicated in that statement that that point B is not necessarily the end point. They've simply said, we're going to get them to that point, but we'll be nice about it while we do it. That's not good enough. The fact of the matter is, they cannot guarantee these residents and these families the same quality of care in the decongregated setting as they currently have in St Mary of the Angels.
Can they not? If the funding's provided, if the staffing is provided, and if they clearly demonstrate that the same level of care or maybe an increased level of staff and financial support will be provided?
Well, are you going to build a hydrotherapy pool in every one of the areas that they've referenced? Are you going to build a gym that they can access in every one of the areas that you've referenced? Are you going to guarantee that if they have a seizure, that they will be seen to by a medical professional within 5-10 minutes? No, you can't. We live in the real world, Jerry. We live in South Kerry. We are aware of the isolation, the problems with isolation, the problems with distances from medical services. They cannot guarantee that.
Okay, John Joe Culloty, if I can talk to you on the funding side of things, and whatever the plan is, and we've seen some details of it from the report, it's going to take money. Now, there is certain set aside amounts of money that goes to this area. There's also additional money from, I understand, Atlantic Philanthropies that's administered by the HSE to fund these transition programmes where they take place across the country. Will the money be there, do you think?
Thanks, Jerry. Good morning. Yeah, just on that very issue, Jerry, there, that money that you spoke about there, that came from the figure that I have in front of me here came from a notice of motion that I had looking for increased funding for disability services in Kerry, and it just reads in that section of it here which you referred to. In addition, the service refund fund between Atlantic Philanthropies, the Department of Health and the HSE provides 27 million in transitional funding between 2016 and 17 to enable individuals in congregated settings to move to community settings. Now, that all sounds great as well, and you made the point there that similar things have been done with, and similar positive change, I think, is actually the way to do. Read out what the statement says, and Norman alluded to it there. Who knows best for these people, only their families, their siblings, their parents, as to what is best for them. That 27 million, if that was spent on improving facilities where they are between 2016 and 2017, it would be far better. I think it's incredible to think that that these people who are caring for these all their lives, they're in a situation where previously the previous administrations, all the HSE and the Southern Health Board, made it in such a way that these settings are the settings that were the way to go. You don't just change those settings overnight and change the model of care. You do that and you phase out the model of care that has been ingrained into these people. It is working for them. The staff, I've spoken to staff there, they love working there. They look after the people there. They have, and they shouldn't apologise for that. Everybody has become, it's home to them. It is a community setting. I don't care what we return it, and that is the thing that should happen. It should be changed from a community setting to a community setting from a congregated setting.
Would you be along the lines of what the parents that we spoke to were saying, that this isn't an institution in the understanding most people would have in the terms, it's a campus, it's community living, there are wide open spaces, people can walk around, they can cycle if they're able to, and they have a hydrotherapy pool, that it isn't an institution in the old traditional sense of either a psychiatric one that would have been in various towns all over Ireland or elsewhere, really.
It is. I mean, if you go back there, you know, you look around you, talk to the parents. What do people, like, we've become so desensitized, everybody's a number now. Why don't, if they talk to the parents, they know exactly how they feel, and the people who are in this community, which is what it is in this community, they know very well that everybody's happy there, they're safe there, and any problems or any issues that need to be dealt with there could be dealt with. The funding, like I said, at 27 million, some of that could be put towards changing whatever changes.
Whatever's on the grounds in St Mary's that needs to be changed.
These people who put them out into those settings, if you look, what they need is continuity. If you move any one of those from one bedroom overnight to another bedroom, it's going to upset them. So can you imagine what it's going to do to them to move them out of what they've been all their life? The care that was told to them was the way it should be done, which I agree it is. And if they're to change it, it has to be phased out. You don't do that midstream. You have to phase it out.
Okay, Councillor Damien Quigg, what's your view on this, particularly regards to, this is HSE policy since 2011. They're saying the way to go to move people into the community so that they can live with everybody else the same way everyone else lives.
Well, Jerry, look, I too sit in the Southern Regional Health Forum with Councillor Culloty, and look, it's the language of the service document that I have a problem with. You know, they're talking about, you know, high prevalence of autism, challenging behaviour, mental health issues, limited access to an experience of the community. That's totally untrue. You know, these service users are coming into the Culloty area. They're having their hair cut. They're going to the supermarkets. They're coming out of the setting. You know, they talk then about external stakeholders, and they say, you know, it has been deemed important to develop positive stories in relation to people who have been moved successfully into the community. What about the people who haven't or won't be moved? You know, like I've been speaking to people who've been dealing with autism, and you've got a situation where change for these people is huge.
It can be a very traumatic thing.
A very traumatic experience. And, they talk about routine and this type of thing. And, they even refer to some public reps may enthusiastically support the redevelopment and could become champions for change. But this is change that they want. It's not change that we're looking for. Like, we're supporting the families here 100%. This is happening on our own doorstep. And, while we have job announcements coming in there in their hundreds and their thousands, and we say, we're out the other side and we're a recovery happening and stuff like this, why is the most vulnerable people in society continued to be attacked? Like, if this is the case, if we're coming out the other side now, why go back down to the bottom and picking the most vulnerable? Like, this is a community setting in Beaufort. I have been up there myself. I've visited this. That you couldn't have any more community. You have people there, family, friends, can visit there anytime they want. They can go up there. There's staff there on hand, as Councillor Moriarty referred to, and this is totally absurd. Like, to be going down this road at this stage, like.
Okay, Norma, what do you think should happen now? Obviously the HSE, with their statement yesterday evening, have said, look, there'll be full consultation now. There'll be no more moving of anybody before full consultation. But is there an element of a broken trust here now? There's going to be a lot of work having to be done to convince parents who were effectively blindsided by this. They didn't know about it. They didn't see this report until it was well written and the process had actually started.
Absolutely. What has to happen now is basically, yes, there has to be proper consultation, but there also has to be that bottom line taken off the table. The HSE, St John of God, seem to have an end view in sight that isn't going to be the process of negotiation. And this is what I referred to earlier. That has to be removed as the destination, if you like, and say, right, we're here. If you look at their mission statement, St John of God's, it's to identify, respond to and support the needs of individuals in the manner of St John of God. So they're actually going against their own mission statement. So let's identify what those needs are and let's respond to what those needs are.
And do we need to know what the long-term plan is after the 76 were moved? If they are still to be moved, if this was the plan, does St John of God and HSE need to come out now and say, well, once this happens, this is what we will do with the former facility?
Yes, you need to know what they're going to do with the former facility. It is an absolutely beautiful campus. It's very pastoral. It's certainly, as regards a piece of real estate, it's certainly very valuable. And there is a cynical view out there and a suspicion, and justifiably so.
We've heard that yesterday, and in fairness to St John of God's HSE, we've put that point to them, and we are waiting for a response as to what they actually want to do, or what, as you say, their end point. But I want to talk to you just briefly about St Francis Special School, which is the special school for children with special needs on the site.
That's right.
Now, that's run by the Department of Education, separate to the HSE and St John of God's, but it'll be funded as well by the department with regards to it. But there was a line in the report, one of the action points on the report says the School Board of Management developed plans with regards to move off campus. And that's the only reference in this report done up by the HSE and St John of God's to St Francis Special School. So obviously that means that the plan was to tell them they're going to have to move. Now, the HSE in their statement to us and St John of God's, HSE particularly, have said that they are... St Francis Special School has been located on the Beaufort site for many years. The proposed changes do not affect St Francis Special School, and there are no plans to relocate the school. It should be noted the school comes under the remit of the Department of Education, and the proposed changes relate only to adult residential services on the St John of God campus. That's fine and well to say that now, but why was that line included in the report? Somewhere along the line there was a plan to tell the school it had to move. And until we know exactly why that was done, can we be sure that isn't still the long-term goal?
We can't be. And again, this probably does go back to 2011. And there was a process of reconfiguration of disability services and health services that was entered into. And you will remember that the parents in St Francis were very concerned and still remain concerned at the dilution of the quality of rehab services that their students were being given. So if you like, you can see where somebody all those years ago decided we're actually going to look at this and we're going to dismantle it. And the process of dismantling seems to date to that time. They haven't communicated what their outcomes are. It's not something that the parents want. It's not something that the students want. It's not something that the staff wants. It's certainly not something that we as public representatives want. We want the best possible quality care for both the students who attend St Francis and indeed the adults who are residents and service receivers in St Mary's of the Angels. This will be fought tooth and nail. You know, we as councillors are going to be completely as one on this. Our Oireachtas members will be as one on this. There is no way we're going to stand by and let these institutions, these faceless, if you like, entities, dictate what happens to the most vulnerable in our community.
Okay, and we still await to hear from the HSE and from St John of God's the answers to the specific questions we asked, and we've also asked for the Minister with Responsibility for Disabilities, Finney McGrath, through the Department of Health to come onto the programme. No responses yet from them, and we have put several questions to the Department of Education in relation to St Francis Special School, and as of yet no response from them as well, but we will bring them to you. We're out of time in it. No doubt we'll be talking about it again in the programme. That's Councillor John Joe Culloty, Fianna Fáil, Sinn Féin's Damien Quigg and Fianna Fáil's Norma Moriarty, giving their views as public representatives on what we've learned over the last number of days.
Thanks for listening to this podcast from Radio Kerry. For more, go to radiokerry.ie/podcasts or search iTunes using the keyword Radio Kerry.